Jennifer, the card isn't working. I can't check out of the hotel. I can't even get home like this. Fix it now, my husband shouted over the phone. When I was in college, I lost both my parents in a car accident. After that, I had to take on several part-time jobs just to afford my tuition. Life was really hard back then. A friend once suggested I try starting a business. Even though things weren't easy, I gave it my full focus, and slowly the company began to grow. Today, I work as the vice president of the company. While most of my friends were getting married and starting families, I also started thinking about my own happiness. I met my husband, and we clicked right away. We got married just 3 months later. But after the wedding, everything changed. My husband quit his job and decided to stay at home. He said he would be a stay-at-home husband. I kept asking him to at least work part-time, but he always refused. One day, I noticed my credit card was gone. It turned out my husband had taken it and gone on a trip with his parents. I tried calling him several times, but he didn't pick up. When he finally answered, he said coldly, "Don't bother me while I'm spending time with my family. Something you clearly don't know how to do." I smiled as I replied. He didn't know it yet, but his luck was about to run out. My name is Jennifer Aniston. I'm 35 years old and currently the vice president at a venture company. Today, I'm financially stable. But there was a time when I couldn't even afford a proper meal. That time started when I lost my parents unexpectedly. They were hit by a car that ran a red light while they were walking across the street. Back then, I thought my life would be normal, going to cafes with friends and studying together. But losing them changed everything. Money became my biggest worry. I had no idea how I'd be able to pay for school. I tried to cover my college expenses through scholarships and part-time jobs, but it still wasn't enough. I had to keep working multiple jobs while going to classes, often with almost no sleep. One day, my classmate Jack Martin made a surprising suggestion. "Jennifer, how about we start a company together?" he said. "If we combine your talent and my business skills, I think we can make it work." Jack was well respected at the university. Starting a business sounded like a big responsibility, but I decided to face the challenge. "I'm scared," I told him. "What if we fail? And how will I even manage the time with all my part-time jobs?" Jack gave me a warm smile, like he really understood how I felt. Then I saw something strong and confident in his eyes. "Don't worry, we'll succeed," he said. His confidence somehow made me feel better. He had a way of making big things seem possible. At that moment, I felt a deep desire to change my life, so I said yes. We started a small company while still in college. In the beginning, getting money to fund our business was hard. Banks kept turning us down, and it was difficult to hire people. Since we were just a small startup, not many talented people were interested. Even after posting job ads, only a few applied, and it was tough to find the right people. But thanks to Jack's calm decisions and smart advice, we slowly built a solid team. Over time, our company began to grow. Jack and I faced many challenges together, and our trust in each other grew stronger. We became close business partners. As the years passed, I reached the age of 35 and realized I had spent most of my time working. I didn't regret it. I had worked hard to pay for my studies and build the company from scratch. I felt proud of what we had achieved. The company was now doing really well. More than 12 years had passed, and both the number of employees and the profits had grown a lot. But as I watched many of my close friends getting married and starting families, I noticed something. My life was only about work. One afternoon after a lunch meeting, I talked to Jack about it. "Jack, lately I've been thinking," I said. "Many of my friends are getting married. It's made me question how I've been living." Jack looked surprised. "Where's this coming from?" he asked. "I've been focused on work ever since college," I said. "But now I'm starting to wonder, am I missing out on something?" Jack paused for a second, then asked, "Are you thinking about getting married?" After hearing me out, he nodded and said, "If you're not happy with how things are now, maybe it's time to consider a change." I realized that life isn't just about work, and the same goes for marriage. If I wanted a fuller life, I needed to take the first step. Jack's words made me stop and think about where my life was going. Until then, I had only focused on my career. With his encouragement, I decided to try finding a life partner. A friend told me about a safe matchmaking app, so I gave it a try. I started going on dates after work, meeting people at restaurants, bars, and movie theaters. After a few dates, I met Paul Wesley on the fifth one. I was always busy with work and not great at house chores, but Paul was the opposite. He was organized, cooked well, and kept things clean. He understood how packed my schedule was and never got upset when I had to cancel a date. From the beginning, our relationship moved forward smoothly. We both talked about marriage early on, and just 3 months later, we decided to get married. But right after our wedding, Paul surprised me with something I never saw coming. "I've quit my job," he said. "I'll be a stay-at-home husband now." I was shocked. "What are you saying?" I asked, completely confused. He calmly replied, "From now on, I'll take care of all the chores so you can focus on your work." "But why would you decide that without even talking to me first?" I asked, still trying to understand. Paul explained, "You're making money, so there's no problem. If I handle the house, it'll make things easier for you." I didn't know how to respond. It felt like he planned to depend on my income entirely. Even though I earned well, we weren't rich. I told him he should still find a job, even if it was part-time. But no matter what I said, he wouldn't listen. "I'm done working in an office," he said. "If you're earning money, that's enough." I was speechless. His attitude felt selfish, but since we were newly married, I didn't want to start a fight. Things got worse when he started asking me to send money to his parents. "Families should support each other," he said. "I'm a stay-at-home husband now, so Jennifer, I'm counting on you." I wouldn't have minded helping his parents if Paul was also earning, but now it just felt unfair. Another reason I didn't want to help was because of how his parents treated me. They often said rude things, acting like I was forcing Paul to do all the housework. One day, we were having a meal with them and they started their usual complaints. His mother put down her chopsticks and said, "Jennifer, you're making Paul do all the chores." "Poor thing. Do you really think that's fair?" Then his father added, "Paul told us you're not good at housework. As his wife, shouldn't you try harder to get better at it?" Their words made me feel humiliated and angry. I didn't know what Paul had told his parents, but it was obvious they thought I was the bad one. That's not true. Paul was the one who chose to be a stay-at-home husband, I said. But Paul leaned over and whispered, "Calm down. Just support me for now and say sorry. I'll explain everything to them later." Even though he said that, I felt upset. He didn't stand up for me when I needed him. I kept asking him afterward if he had cleared up the misunderstanding, but he always avoided the topic. "I haven't had the chance to talk to them," he'd say. I felt rejected by his family and unsupported by my own husband. I started to feel hopeless about our marriage and began thinking about divorce. But then something unexpected happened. I had been having stomach pain for a while, so I went to the hospital. That's when I found out I was pregnant. I felt shocked but happy and rushed home to tell Paul. "Paul, I'm pregnant," I said with a smile. "Oh, really? That's great. I'm looking forward to it," he replied calmly, almost too calmly. His reaction confused me. There was no excitement, no hugs, nothing. He just sat down on the couch and turned on the TV like I hadn't said anything important. The happiness I felt disappeared in seconds. I felt heartbroken and disappointed. I quietly went to my room, tears rolling down my face. His cold reaction made me wonder, had the love between us disappeared? Even with a baby on the way, he didn't seem happy. I started thinking seriously about divorce. But now I was pregnant. Could I really raise a child on my own? Maybe things would change after the baby arrived. Maybe Paul, and even his parents, would act differently. Hanging on to that tiny bit of hope, I decided to stay for now. A few weeks later, I noticed a big charge on my credit card bill. I checked my wallet and the card was gone. Had I lost it? Or had someone stolen it? Or maybe it was used by a scammer. Worried, I went to Paul. "Hey, there's a big charge on my credit card. I didn't make it. Do you think I should call the card company?" I asked. To my shock, he replied, "I used it. It's not fraud, so don't cancel the card." I was speechless. After quitting his job and spending all his savings, he had secretly taken my card and used it without telling me, even though I was already giving him money for groceries and bills. Why would you take my card without asking? And what did you spend so much money on? I asked. It's my right to buy what I want. I just need some money I can use freely, he said coldly. I looked at him and said, then get a job and buy things with your own money. I snapped back at him, but this was a conversation we had had many times before. No matter how much I begged or got upset, my husband had no plans to get a job. The man I once believed would help support our home now barely cooked and relied on takeout. He also didn't keep the house clean. When I complained about it, he got angry. You're the one making the money, so what's the problem? He yelled. I'm your husband, and I do housework. As a stay-at-home husband, I deserve at least that much. Then he stormed out, saying he was going to his parents' house. I felt hurt and angry. Families are supposed to support each other, but now I was pregnant and starting to doubt if he really cared about our future. I had worked so hard to build this life and career. Just because we were married didn't mean he could spend large amounts of money without even asking me. I kept taking deep breaths to stop myself from crying or yelling. Later that night, he suddenly came back with his parents. The door slammed open, and I jumped up, startled. As soon as they entered, his parents started shouting at me. This is all your fault, they said. Paul has been so stressed doing the housework because you force it on him. His mother added, as a woman, you should be cooking, cleaning, and doing the laundry. Don't use your job as an excuse to avoid your duties. Their words made my blood boil. I was pregnant and not feeling well, and now I was being blamed for everything. I had already made up my mind to get a divorce, and their yelling pushed me over the edge. I shouted back, my voice full of anger. Enough. Don't act like you know everything when you clearly don't. You'll regret talking to me this way. They looked shocked by how cold and serious I sounded. But I realized there was no point arguing anymore. My husband had clearly lied to them about the situation, and even when I tried to explain that he wasn't working or helping, they didn't believe me. So I stayed quiet. Still, deep down, I knew they would regret this one day. Then suddenly, my mother-in-law pulled some papers out of her bag and slammed them on the dining table. If you won't change your behavior, we're demanding a divorce. Sign this and be done with it, she said. I stared at the papers in shock. I never thought they'd be the ones to bring it up, especially like this. In fact, I had been planning to ask for a divorce myself. Thinking this could turn into a legal fight, I picked up the pen. My hands were shaking so much, I could barely hold it. But I signed the papers, swallowing my pain and anger. I forced myself to sign the papers and said, there, it's done. With that, my husband and his parents left. Then I realized I forgot to ask for my credit card back. A deep sadness hit me. Right after that, a sharp pain shot through my stomach. It was worse than anything I'd ever felt. I collapsed to the floor. My breathing became fast, and sweat started pouring down my face and body. My vision turned blurry, and the pain was so strong I couldn't think clearly. I tried to say, "What's happening?" but the words barely came out. With every breath, the pain got worse. I couldn't control my body. I dragged myself across the floor, trying to reach my phone. My fingers were shaking as I pulled myself forward, little by little, using all the strength I had left. The burning pain made me feel like I was about to pass out. I finally managed to call emergency services. In a weak, trembling voice, I said, "Help! I'm in a lot of pain. I'm pregnant." I gave them my address and ended the call. The pain didn't stop. My vision got darker, and I collapsed again, lying there on the floor, waiting for help. "Please protect my baby," I whispered in my mind, praying hard. Even in that pain, I kept telling myself to stay strong for my child. I was rushed to the hospital. The doctors told me I was at risk of early labor. They said it was because of too much stress and working too hard. I was admitted to the hospital right away. The fear for my baby was so overwhelming that I must have passed out after arriving. I was in a coma for 3 days. When I finally woke up, I was in a quiet hospital room. The pain had gone down and my body felt a little better. I slowly became aware of my surroundings. The room was calm, and soft sunlight came through the window. I gently touched my belly and felt that my baby was still there. I let out a deep breath, thankful for that moment of peace. Slowly, the memories came back, the awful pain, the ambulance ride, and how scared I was of blacking out. I was grateful to be alive and safe. Then I thought about my husband. I needed to contact him. I picked up my phone and called him. He didn't answer. I remembered giving his number to the ambulance staff, but I hadn't heard from him since. I called again. Still no reply. I tried several more times. Finally, on the fifth try, he answered, but his voice sounded odd, and the signal wasn't clear. "What do you want at this hour?" he asked. "I was rushed to the hospital," I said. "I had signs of early labor. It happened after you and your parents left. Can you please bring me some of my things?" His reply stunned me. "That sounds tough, but I'm overseas right now, so I can't help," he said. "Overseas?" I asked, shocked. "I'm enjoying a vacation in Hawaii. Don't bother me while I'm spending time with my parents. I'm just doing my duty as a son, something you clearly don't understand," he added. I was speechless. How could someone with no job afford a trip abroad? Since he kept talking about duty, I knew he must have used someone else's money, probably mine. My voice shaking, I ended the call with a quiet, "Got it." After that, I went straight to the hospital's gift shop. I bought a small box, an envelope, and made a phone call to a number I had saved. The next day, my husband called, clearly panicking. "The card isn't working. I can't check out of the hotel. I can't even get home like this." "Fix this now," he shouted. "I canceled the card," I said calmly, though I was boiling inside. "What? I can't pay for anything. What are you going to do about it?" he cried. "That's your problem," I replied firmly. "This isn't just my problem. I'm still your husband," he yelled. I couldn't help but laugh. "What's so funny?" he asked, confused. "Our marriage is almost over. The divorce papers are already being processed," I told him. His voice changed. He sounded like he was about to cry. "Please, just let me use the card one more time, so I can get home. I'm begging you." But I felt nothing. "Figure it out yourself. You're no longer my concern," I said coldly and hung up. 4 days later, my friend Jack, who is also the company's president, came to visit me at the hospital. "Don't worry about work. Just focus on getting better," he said gently. I smiled and replied, "This is the first time I've done absolutely nothing." But before I could say anything else, the hospital door suddenly flew open. My ex-husband and his parents had just returned from their overseas trip and stormed into the room. As soon as he saw me, my ex-husband shouted, "What have you done?" "I had to borrow money from a friend just to get back." His mother screamed, "This is unbelievable. How could you treat us like this?" His father yelled too. Our son's well-planned trip was completely ruined. They were all furious. Jack and some people nearby watched the scene unfold. Still, I stayed calm. "He paid for the whole trip using my credit card, without my permission," I said clearly. The mood in the room suddenly changed. My in-laws looked at each other, shocked and confused. Their expressions looked like they had just been hit by lightning. I continued. "Right after we got married, he quit his job and said he'd be a stay-at-home husband. But he's hardly done anything around the house since." My words echoed through the room. It was quiet now, no one said a thing. I could see the worry on my in-laws' faces. "What? Paul isn't working? That can't be true. He told us he had a job," my mother-in-law said, her voice shaking. She looked clearly upset and confused. My father-in-law stared at me too, shocked and disappointed. "The truth is, he hasn't been working at all. I've been the one paying for everything," I told them. Hearing this, they turned to Paul with shocked and hurt expressions. It was clear they felt betrayed. My mother-in-law pressed her lips tightly, and my father-in-law clenched his fists in anger. Paul couldn't even look at them. He looked down, avoiding their eyes. Then Jack spoke up. "Mr. and Mrs. Wesley, I need to speak with you. I'm the CEO of the company where Jennifer works. Through our talks, I've learned that Paul has been unemployed, and it's Jennifer who's been taking care of all the expenses." My in-laws looked stunned. Jack calmly handed them his business card and showed them the company's website. Their hands shook as they looked at it, and it was clear they couldn't deny the truth anymore. Their faces showed both shock and confusion. Jack continued, "Our company is currently working on a major project with Mr. Wesley's workplace. But after this, we don't want to keep working with unreliable partners." "This can't be happening. What's going to happen to the project?" my father-in-law asked, barely able to speak. "Paul, how are you going to explain all of this?" he added, his face full of defeat. My mother-in-law buried her face in her hands. "How did things turn out like this?" she whispered. They both looked pale and heartbroken. Just then, Paul grabbed my hand tightly. "Jennifer, please help me. I want to fix this," he said with tears in his eyes. His hand was shaking, and he looked truly scared. After everything he had done, ignoring me, spending my money, and lying, I wasn't surprised to see him begging now. "It's too late," I said firmly. "I can't forget what you did. This is the end." I pulled my hand away with strength. "Please," he begged again, falling to his knees in front of me. At that moment, Jack pulled out some documents. "Can you still ask for help after seeing this?" he said. The papers showed an investigation Jack had done quietly. They explained how Paul had lied about sending money to his parents but was keeping it for himself, and how he had carelessly spent my hard-earned income. "I can't let anyone hurt an important business partner," Jack said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were serious. "I've already spoken to our lawyer. You should be ready to pay for what you've done," he told the three of them with a polite but firm smile. As I lay in my hospital bed, I felt thankful and relieved for everything Jack had done for me. I looked out the window, feeling peaceful for the first time in a long while. After that day, all the stress I had been carrying seemed to fade. I slowly recovered from the danger of early labor and later gave birth to a healthy baby. My heart was full, happy about my baby's arrival, but also tired from the delivery. Jack and my coworkers even came to visit and celebrate. After I left the hospital, I moved into a new apartment that Jack had helped arrange. Thanks to him, we chose a place where my ex-husband and his family would never be able to find us. The new home was in a quiet area, away from the noise of the city. It was surrounded by green trees and peaceful silence. It was the perfect place to relax, take slow walks, and enjoy the calm that nature brings. Here, my baby and I started a new chapter in life. I felt a mix of hope and nervousness, but the support from kind people around me helped ease those worries. A few weeks have passed since I gave birth. I'm on maternity leave now, spending calm, slow days with my newborn. This time is so special to me. Jack visits often, bringing things we need and always offering kind words. One day, he arrived again with more supplies. When he saw us, he asked gently, "Jennifer, how are you feeling? The baby looks healthy, and that's the most important thing." "Thank you, Jack," I said with a smile. "We've made it through because of your support." I invited him inside. After laying the baby in the crib, I made him a warm cup of coffee. He looked a little serious as he sat down. "There's something important I need to talk to you about," he said. "It's about your ex-husband and his parents." "Is something wrong?" I asked, concerned. I asked Jack what was going on. He told me he had been quietly keeping track of my ex-husband and his family to make sure we stayed safe. They sold their house to pay the compensation and are now living in an old, run-down apartment, he said. "Your ex-father-in-law lost his job, and now all three of them are working day and night." Jack placed some papers on the living room table and explained, "Your ex-husband is doing hard labor at a construction site he's not used to. Since he was lazy even with housework, he keeps getting scolded at work and is struggling to keep up." He continued, "Your ex-mother-in-law works 2 jobs. She's a cashier at a supermarket during the day and works in a sandwich factory at night. She's exhausted and her back hurts, but she can't afford to rest or get treatment. As for your ex-father-in-law," Jack added, "he's been looking for a better job, but his age and lack of experience make it difficult. So now he works as a cashier during the day and a janitor at night." Hearing all this, I felt a mix of emotions. Part of me felt a little sorry for them, but that feeling didn't last long. In the end, I knew they were only facing the results of their own actions. Staying calm, I said, "This is what happens when you betray others." Jack nodded and replied, "You're right. Now you're free. Let's focus on your happiness and the baby's future." I agreed completely. I knew now that my life moving forward would be about my child and myself. The pain and struggles from before were over. I was ready to start fresh. Later, with the help of my lawyer, I asked my ex-husband and his parents to pay alimony and return the money they had taken without asking. They said they couldn't pay, but I didn't care about their excuses anymore. I stood strong for my future and my child's. "I'm done thinking about marriage," I said with a smile. "From now on, I'll live a happy life with my baby." Jack smiled and said, "That's the right choice. You're strong, and you deserve every bit of happiness coming your way." With his kind words and support, I felt hopeful. From now on, my focus is on building a joyful life with my child. This new beginning is a big and exciting step forward for both of us.